Sanbanane tumelang abusheni helu. Welcome to our show. There are. Hello cuties and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope everybody's having a good day. I am back with a new video. I come back with a new review and new nails. I am obsessed with this color. I cannot stop looking at my hands. Okay, also it's getting warm outside. I'm very happy about that. But here's a conspiracy theory. If winter was as cold as it was this year, right? Does it mean that summer is gonna be hotter than a heater? Think about it. Anyways, let's start today's video. For today's video, I will be reviewing the Netflix series Shadow. They should have called it Haunted by a tragic loss, Shadow follows the story of an ex-cop with a rare inability to feel pain. After he leaves the police force, he strikes out on his own as a vigilante to catch offenders who've eluded Johannesburg police. While taking justice into his own hands in the criminal underworld of Joburg, he also navigates dealing with his past traumas with his friends and family by his side. I obviously have a few notes that I want to share with you guys, so let's begin. The story starts off with the main character Shadows meeting up with a client and is basically going to help her out with her problem. The setup is very mysterious, which works well for this kind of genre, which is very action thriller. After meeting up with the client, he goes into the apartment and basically saves the day. He's definitely from the get-go being set up to be the steering of the show. Steering, what's the proper word for steering? Oh, he's set up to be the hero of the show, without a doubt. The action sequence in this scene was actually really well done. I think the action sequence throughout the show were actually very well done. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they didn't have stunt doubles, so like the actors did that themselves. I don't know if you are covered near medical, but you know, good for you. I like low-key wish that our police force in real life was this badass. But they are not. So after Shadow saves the day, we start following him in his personal life, and slowly but surely, everything and all the mystery around him starts being uncovered piece by piece. Over the course of the show, we learn why he decided to leave the force and became this underground crime fighter who took the law into his own hands. And I'll explain more about this when I'm doing the character breakdown. Something I like about the show is how the story was laid out and how it flows from the beginning until the end. I think this has to do with how it was written, but I like how simple it is, and there's nothing complicated about the storyline. Another thing I love about the show is how each episode follows a different case and how each case is actually different from each other. Every episode is something different. Some of these cases were so extreme that I can almost guarantee that you will never guess what they are, or most importantly how they end. Something I appreciate about the show is how rational the characters are. Think about how many times you've watched a show and a character would just like do something or react a certain way, and you would just think to yourself, I would never do that. I would never do that. Everyone here seems to have a rational train of thought, or at least you understand why they do what they do. At some point I was looking at a villain and thinking, you know what? I understand why you're saying that and why you're doing what you're doing. It's still f***ed up, but at least I understand you. Now here's some things that I didn't enjoy as much. I don't understand why these people aren't using more vernacular when they're interacting with each other. I mean, you'd have incidences where two people whose first language is not English, and you can tell that it's not English, speaking English to each other. And it doesn't make sense to me, because think about the fact that the show is in Joburg, and in most cases, you adapt how you speak to whoever you're speaking to, right? So when you have two people whose first language is not English speaking English to each other when they don't need to, it just takes me out of the world. And it happens so often that whenever people were actually using vernac in their interactions, it stood out for me. Maybe it's just a me thing, but I just feel like vernacular makes storytelling a whole lot better. Also, isn't it funny how in every action show, the hero will dodge every single bullet And the people shooting, who are most times trained professionals, miss every single shot until they're killed. I mean, story is a story. At the end of the show, the questions that I had in the beginning of the show were answered, and I think they wrapped up the story pretty well. Like, it felt complete. Now, I'm gonna move on to the characters. So we're starting off with the main character, Shadow, who is an ex-cop who turned into a vigilante. After two of the people that he was supposed to protect get murdered under witness protection, he decides to leave the police force and venture out into his own. So this is because he feels that the justice system has failed him, and he basically wants to help anybody else who's in the same predicament that he was in. In the beginning of the show, he seems like this very mysterious guy who's hung up on this case with the little girl. The case with the little girl. But at the end of the show, we understand, we know more about him and his past, and we understand why he's so obsessed with this case. Now, as I mentioned before, part of his origin story is that when he was a kid, he got struck by lightning, and as a result, his nerves got fried and he cannot feel any pain. This is probably very helpful when you are dealing with criminals in the underworld. So how does it work? You know, you'd think they'd play more on this, but I don't think they do enough, because at some points watching the show, I forgot that he has these superpowers. Next we have Zola. Zola is Shadow's younger sister, who is a computer genius. I think she's a computer genius. But basically, she sometimes helps Shadow out with his missions, and they live together. Part of her story is that she's paralyzed from the waist down, and this was because of an accident that happened when she was younger. There's not really much focus on her, so that's pretty much it. Then we have Max, who is Shadow's friend and former partner at the police task force. So Max still works for the police, but he sometimes helps Shadow out with his missions by either giving him intel whenever he can, or he covers up Shadow's tracks whenever Shadow makes a mess of things, and they have a really good friendship together. Then we have Ashley, who is Zola's old friend from varsity. When Shadow and Zola needed a new roommate, Ashley moved into the apartment, and Ashley is a soon-to-be or wannabe doctor or medical professional. I'm not actually completely sure, but she does what she needs to do in order to survive and pay the bills. I think that's as vague as I can put it without actually spoiling anything. So those four characters are the main people in the show. Everybody else that's in the show is a supporting character with no actual character development. Hence, I didn't mention them, and also most of them appear only in one episode. So there are a few familiar faces, and there are also faces that you probably have not seen before. Yeah, there's not a lot I can actually say about characters this time, so I'm just gonna move on to everything technical. Let's start off with the visuals of the show. To be honest, there wasn't anything spectacular about how the show looks or how it was shot. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't bad or anything. It was just not mind-blowing. I mean, both the cinematography and the grade were functional. And by that, I mean, they used the tools to tell a story instead of giving us mind-blowing visuals. Listen, maybe someone with more knowledge on this can better explain it. The visual effects were also simple, and I'm not mad about this because I think in this case it makes sense. Their approach to the VFX made sense because of how the characters were using them. I hope I'm making sense. I do wish that the title sequence was a little more exciting. Listen, I love a good title sequence. The editing was good. Again, there's nothing mind-blowing about this whole show. They just used what they had to tell a story. The production design team did a really great job in setting up this world of story. And it's the same thing for the costume and the styling. I think they were on point with every scene and every location within the show. The one thing I will say was the blood was fake. The blood was fake. There was even a point where they used VFX to make the blood splat and stuff, and it's like all of the blood in the show was fake. All of it. The sound design had a number of problems. I think the main one was ADR. And for people who don't know what ADR is, it's basically re-recording scenes in studio if he had problems when you were shooting them on set. But also ADR is a very hard thing to achieve. So, and as I say, I think I can understand why they had so many problems, because a lot of the show was shot in CBD in Joburg, and the city is always loud. So those poor guys in post. The music choices were cool because I understood the vibe they were going for. It was very on brand and on theme to what the show was. There may be one or two things that I didn't like, but overall I get it. And that pretty much covers it. Overall, the show was okay. I don't think people would be very excited after watching the show, or excited to watch the show. I think if this team had a bigger budget to work with, they would have made great TV. I also think that the show should have actually been put on regular TV rather than a streaming platform, because I don't think it's designed to be binged. Like, you don't really get that one more episode syndrome after each episode. The reception of the show was almost non-existent. When the show first got released on the 8th of March 2019, not a lot of people were really talking about it. This might have had to do with the fact that not a lot of people had Netflix at that point. The local reviews were pretty bad, so... And the only accolade that I saw this show receive was the SAFTA for Best Achievement in Art Direction in a TV Drama. Give that woman a bell. So I thought the show had great potential for a second season, but I highly doubt that's going to happen. And that is all I have to say about Shadow. Listen, if you made it to this point of the video, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below and tell me what you thought of the video or of the show, or both. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you want more videos like this. A new video will be up when it's up, because let's be honest, okay? Time is a social construct that I clearly do not follow when it comes to putting up these videos. And if I were to put a timeline on when the next video will be up, it would end in tears. And until next time, from me Buzz, it's goodbye and sanitize.